So that means that in this sustainable solution, there is also another value of being cheap, of being affordable for people, rather than just making it for the climate, for the environment. In this case, cheaper equals sustainable, and it's great because there is like twofold value here. And I really hope that the same can happen with digital climate tech solutions as well. That digital products can generate value and be better for the users, for the clients, not only for the planet, but also have value for other parties involved.
Hey, fellow builders, welcome back to Excuse My SaaS, powered by ProdCamp, your revenue-centric user feedback platform. Here on Excuse My SaaS, we love to talk about product impact. Not just how product gets built, but how they turn into real businesses. Because at the end of the day, a great product that doesn't turn into a sustainable business won't last long enough to make a difference. And that's exactly why we are talking about climate tech today. Over the last few years, climate and sustainability tech has exploded. More people than ever want to build products that do good for the planet, for communities, for the future. But the thing is, impact-driven companies still have to be businesses. If they don't make money or if they can't scale, they can grow, and ultimately, they can't make the impact they set out to achieve. So today, we're tackling the biggest challenge in climate tech. How do you balance mission with building a sustainable business? And if you're running both B2B and B2C models at the same time and globally, how do you scale without losing focus? Which is exactly why we are talking to Valeria Stromtsova today. Valeria is a product manager at TreeApp, a company that figures out how to make tree planting scalable and sustainable through both a B2C app and a B2B platform. She's leading international expansion, product growth, and the challenge of balancing impact with business realities right now as we speak. So if you're working in sustainability or building a mission-driven product, this episode is for you. Valeria, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you for this new Excuse My SaaS episode. Did I miss anything in that intro?
No, to be honest, that was pretty accurate. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really excited to be here.
So let's get started maybe with the big picture. Climate tech is booming, but the reality is that many startups in the space don't survive long term. So what's the biggest misconception about building a business in climate tech today for you, Valeria?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception for me is that a lot of people think that there's no business in this space, especially no digital business. And I'm kind of in a sustainability bubble in my kind of community. I talk to people in climate tech. I work in climate tech. This all feels like a very big bubble for me. But when I look a bit outside of this bubble and when I speak to other people, especially when I go home to my home country, Russia, a lot of people that I speak to, they are quite surprised when I say what I do for a living, right? They're like, wow, how do you make money? How do you actually survive, right? And that it's hard for other people to imagine that there is an opportunity in this space, that it's possible to create something that generates value for people, that people would pay for something that you produce, and it's in climate tech. But in reality, as you said, the size of the climate tech market is quite big. It's in the dozens of $billions. Different estimates out there, but honestly, it's also predicted to grow a lot over the next years.
Right.
And there are so many solutions in this space. There are so many opportunities. There's like so many different problems you can tackle, from sustainable energy to food waste to deforestation, like we do, et cetera, right? So a lot of problems, a lot of opportunities, and a lot of these businesses are successful. So yeah, that's what I think is one of the misconceptions, that you can't build a business here, but actually you can.
I love it. That's a great start. So you're working at TreeApp, which is clearly mission-driven, but purpose alone isn't enough. You need a business model that actually works. So what's been the hardest part of balancing sustainability goals with revenue goals at TreeApp? Can you tell us a word about that?
Yeah, so I'll split this maybe into two parts. So the first part is about the B2B side of the business, where we offer tree planting to businesses. And for us, we really want to ensure that our tree planting is sustainable, right? That it goes a long way, that so the trees that we plant, they survive over time. And to assure to assure that this is the case, we need to partner with the best local communities. We need to carefully select the trees that we plant, native species only, a mix of different species to ensure that biodiversity is there. So we really want to be the best at what we do. But on the other hand, there is a challenge that businesses that come to us to plant trees, they are often looking for a low pricing point, right? So finding the best pricing point for the B2B offering that ensures that we do everything the right way, that the trees survive. They're not just planted and abandoned in the field with no one to take care of them, right? That we actually find the right communities to plant trees with, and that we actually do this in the right way. But at the same time, given the clients the best pricing point, it's an interesting challenge to solve. And I think we've done great progress in this, but of course, there's more to be done here. And on the B2C side of the business, so we operate an app that allows people to plant trees for free by watching ads. And the revenue from these ads goes towards planting trees. That's as easy as it is. And there's also a feature that allows us to monetize a bit more, which is just donating directly to plant the trees. So monetizing B2C products in this space is a bit challenging, especially like finding the right value proposition that appeals to users, that makes them spend time on your app, that competes with other engaging apps out there on their phone, that competes with YouTube, Spotify, and all
attention.
Yeah, exactly. War. Trying to really pull people in your app, retaining these users over time, monetizing them is quite a difficult challenge. I think what helps us here is gamification. So making the app engaging and making people really interested in what's going on the app, and also showing a bit of planting process, how the actual trees are being planted, because people care about that. This is what helps us here. But it's definitely a challenge that we are constantly tackling, and that we are always looking to find ways to improve in.
Love it. Really, really interesting. And when you are in a product role, there are trade-offs that can get very real, especially when you're making roadmap decisions. So when building an impact-driven product, where do you personally see the biggest trade-off between staying true to the mission and making business-focused decisions?
Yeah. So I think a lot of things come down to who you partner with, because you can't build this business on your own, right? So we, for example, we partner with a lot of local communities to plant the trees, but we also have partners such as our clients who, fund the tree planting. And the final goal here is to get more trees into the ground and ensure they survive over time, to just ensure biodiversity benefits, social benefits, and other benefits that tree planting provides. But interestingly, we are also a SaaS business, so there is no restriction as to who can sign up to plant trees with us on our platform. It's completely okay if a fast fashion brand comes to us and says, okay, we want to plant 100,000 trees with you, right? This is a great win for the environment, because some of the money that this company has made goes towards planting trees. But some people can say this is a trade-off, because, some people are quite purist, I would say, in this regard, and they would see it as a trade-off. But for us, the mission of planting more trees and the benefits that they provide, it outweighs the kind of strictness and this ethical
purity of the goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for us, it's more about the mission and actually getting trees into the ground, being practical here. So this is one thing that I would like to highlight here. But there are always trade-offs, as you said. These kind of like ethical questions come up all the time when you make every choice, right? Like, for example, you choose a hosting platform for your website, and you can choose a green energy platform that will cost you a bit more. You can choose a very cheap one that will cost you less, but will be less green, right? So, that's just a trade-off that you make all the time. And interestingly enough, it also comes down to programming languages, for example. So I read some research recently that says that when you choose a programming language, you need to be quite mindful about what kind of language you choose to develop your product, because some languages have a very high environmental impact. For instance, Python has 75 times more energy consumption than languages such as C. And this is something that you never think about, right? This is a trade-off that is kind of subconscious for you, because you don't even think about this when you develop your product at first, right? Yeah, but then you're like, oh, wow, this actually makes a difference. So maybe I should consider this. So a lot of these different, questions arise, and developing product is so complex. You evaluate your choices constantly. You try to make trade-offs in the best way possible for your business, for your mission. it's really challenging. I don't have like the the optimal or the best answer here. We're trying to make those choices always right for the environment and trying to really be green and true to the mission, but it's challenging.
Yeah, and the question of trade-off, I find it particularly interesting also because a lot of companies in this space attract mission-driven employees and investors, maybe people who care deeply about the cause, which is a great strength, but it can also add some pressure. So I was wondering, how do you keep the team and stakeholders aligned with kind of business fundamentals without losing that sense of a mission?
Yeah, I think it's just a question of team culture and hiring practices that we have. So we're quite cautious about hiring new people, and we can spend months, trying to find the right person. So we want to ensure that they just fully share the values that we have here, and maybe also the vibes that the team has. So these people usually really care about the mission. They really care about their role. And a lot of people here, like myself included, they always look for opportunities to develop themselves outside of work, also like more in sustainability and also in what they do as like a product manager or an engineer. And also a big part of the culture is the founders' personalities, I believe, because both of them are super multicultural and super passionate people. They met in London during their studies. They realized that there is an opportunity in the climate tech space to create something new, and they just did it, right? So they built the app 5 years ago, and then the B2B followed as well. And all these 5 years, they were really careful about building the team where people are just nice. They are mission driven, but at the same time quite practical, and also realize all these challenges that come with building a climate tech business. And everyone's just nice and humble and passionate. It's honestly one of the best like joys of working in climate tech is to get to work with these people. Yeah, nice. And by the way, we're hiring, so check out the careers page.
All right, we'll put that out there. That's a good one.
Cool.
Okay, now zooming into TreeApp's unique setup. You're not just running one model. You're running both a consumer-facing app, you said it, and a business-facing platform, which comes with its own set of headaches and opportunities, I guess. So what's the biggest challenge of running this B2B, B2C model at the same time? And have you had to make, I don't know, tough calls on where to focus?
Yeah, of course. It's always a question of priorities. I will not say anything new here. It's just a question of prioritization all the time, right? It's competing priorities. It's a question of resources, where you spend your resources, where you spend your money, your budget. And especially for me as a product manager who oversees both products at the same time, I need to keep track of everything.
Quite a stretch.
Yeah, I need to monitor user feedback, client feedback, data trends for both products, keep track of initiatives, prioritize work for engineers. All of this is quite a lot to handle. And I think multitasking is one of my strong sides, I would say, but sometimes the context switching is a lot. So things like, time blocking, this technique really help, just blocking time for focused work. But I'm also trying to, I guess, not make other people overwhelmed, especially engineers when they work on different projects, trying to get people to focus on one thing at a time, even though sometimes it's quite hard, but we're trying to do that. Eliminate distractions. In terms of tough calls, I wouldn't say, we have any really tough calls. We are just trying to kind of plan our work on a quarterly basis and decide upfront whether we spend a particular amount of time and resource on B2B or B2C. Maybe it's a 50-50 split, maybe it's a 80-20 split. We're just discussing this as a team and deciding to allocate resource according to what we are prioritizing.
Okay, and adjusting that on the fly pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. When you look at both sides, consumer and business, one might pull more weight in revenue, while the other might drive more visibility or engagement. So I was wondering which side of the business actually drives more revenue today, and maybe which one is harder to scale for you?
Yeah, I would say you wouldn't be surprised to know that the B2B side, as with a lot of businesses, is like more profitable, more revenue oriented. And honestly, quite a few businesses in climate tech, as far as I know, start out as B2C products and then also gradually move more and more resource into the B2B side. And I first heard this insight from Josephine Phillips. She's the founder of Sojo, a clothes rental app. And so she created the app first. Her journey was that she just built this app for consumers that want to repair their clothes. And afterwards, she leaned into the B2B side, and she discovered there is also an opportunity in this space to offer clothing repair to clothing stores, right? And she had great success with it. So, and the reasoning behind this is completely understandable, right? So businesses, they have a lot of resource, they hold a lot of power, they have the money. And if you win like one client in B2B, their lifetime value is dozens of times higher than those of a B2C client, if not more, right? So of course, this trajectory is natural for this kind of business. But still, I do believe that the B2C products in this space are quite important. We should still continue be doing them. And if not from the revenue point of view, then at least from the educational point of view, and just to spread awareness about climate, about the environment. I think the apps such as TreeApp, for example, we really try to involve people in climate action. And what we do is that we really, give them a chance to make a difference. In just a few taps on your screen, you'll get to support the tree, which is pretty amazing. So we try to really educate people, involve them in climate action. They don't need to do anything. They just need to spend a bit of time. They don't even need to invest any money into it, right? And that's super easy. So if, solutions like this incentivize at least one person to think a bit more about the environment, adapt their lifestyle in other ways rather than just using the app, then I think it's worth it. And thinking about what's harder to scale, I think, so at the moment we're trying to launch the app internationally, and this is a question of scale, right? So it feels like it's quite hard to scale, to be honest, because there's a lot of moving pieces. We're in the middle of it, and we haven't done it before. It's the first international launch. We are going into France, which is super exciting. And and historically, to be honest, the B2C side also was a bit harder to scale. Our main acquisition channel for B2C is organic growth. So it's just word of mouth. It's just people who tell other people about the app and they just share the word like this. But this is a slow process, right? So organic growth happens a bit slowly. If with paid marketing, you might want to spend a lot of money on the campaign, then it brings you some users in return. So it's kind of a more predictable process. While with organic, you never know whether people will recommend other people to join the app or not. So before this starts to happen a bit faster with organic growth, you really need to build a great app in the first place and build a great value proposition that people will be happy to share in their social circles.
That's a great transition, Valeria. Thank you so much, because that's bringing us exactly to how you position value. Selling tree planting to a user versus a business are two very different conversations, I can imagine. So what's the key difference you've experienced when selling sustainability to businesses versus consumers?
Yeah, I mean, well, the biggest and most kind of obvious difference here is the type of the end user, right? So everything in the product will then correspond to the pain points and motivations of a user or a client, right? So it's really crucial to understand here what drives the users and the clients to want to use your services in any way. I guess other aspects differ between B2B and B2C in our product, right? Whether it's a mobile app or a web application, so B2C versus B2B. Usage frequency is different. Purchasing power is different. So yeah, as you were saying, this is quite different spaces, I would say. But on the other hand, I found while working here in this space on both sides of the business that sometimes the motivations overlap of the people who use the B2B product and the B2C product. And it's because on both sides, there are actual people who want to make a difference to the environment. And their motivation is a bit similar in this regard, right? So users who use the app, they want to plant more trees, they want to support the environment. Businesses, they often join as well just out of desire to make something good for the environment. A lot of times it's about brand awareness, kind of more practical reasons, I would say. But mostly, businesses who work with us, they have really nice people and the people who really want to make these projects happen, that they want to continue funding our reforestation efforts. And this is so cool because this just shows the kind of people side of the company to you, right? So the fact that there's like real people behind every business decision and behind the decision of investing into tree planting, and these people are nice. They really care about the environment. So that's great. And especially, for small businesses, like sometimes we have founders of really small businesses who come to us. They say, "Oh, we really care about the footprint of our business on the environment. What can we do about it?" And we're like, "Okay, maybe you want to plant some trees," So yeah, and I think that's the motivation to use climate tech overall for these companies, to just manage their footprint, to just try to understand what they can do about their footprint.
Right.
Yeah, I think, for businesses, it's, as I said, the motivation can be a bit like practical about brand awareness, brand positioning, to look sustainable to their clients. But this doesn't cancel the fact that inside these businesses, there are people taking these decisions, and these people care a lot.
Yeah, genuinely interesting into the impact and
just like the B2C users.
Right. Interesting, really interesting. We talked a bit about it. We touched this topic about the different models and starting with one and pivoting or expanding. How did you decide which model to operate first at TreeApp? Did it just happen like that, or what drove the timing of introducing a second one as well?
Yeah, I wasn't at the company back then, but I know that the founders, when they met, it was like 5 years ago, I guess even more. The company was launched 5 years ago. But the whole company kind of grew out of the idea that the founders had. One of them is from Greece. So he saw a lot of wildfires in Greece happening everywhere, just forests burning down. And he was really motivated to do something about it. And they met in London, the founders, and they envisioned an app where you can use advertising as a force for good. So some money from advertising would go towards solving the deforestation problem. So they had this idea, and naturally, this was a B2C app that, the idea just came and it was directed towards B2C users. They just created this app, and then several months later, as far as I know, they noticed that there's demand on the B2B side as well. Not sure how exactly this happened, probably through conversations with businesses who were interested in planting trees, but they decided to just explore this opportunity, and it kind of really gained traction. So this has grown a lot in the past years.
Super interesting. And actually now you are adding another layer of complexity. You were touching it earlier in the interview, but you're going international. Sustainability is definitely a global issue, but the context and urgency vary a lot from place to place, I guess. So as TreeApp expands into international markets, have you seen sustainability concerns play out differently across region? I'm not sure you actually launched somewhere else, or you are in the process of launching to France, but I don't remember if you actually launched somewhere else. And how has that affected your product or messaging, or how would you expect that to affect it?
Yeah. So since the beginning of TreeApp, it was just a UK-based business, right? So we were available in the UK and Ireland, and even on like the App Store, you wouldn't download the app from any other country. Although on the B2B side, like any business could sign up. But again, we mostly work with UK and Ireland-based companies just because they know about us. They know that we exist and the rest of the world doesn't. So now we are trying to expand into France, and we are firstly doing this from the B2C perspective, but then the B2B one will come a bit later as well. So, of course, climate and sustainability are viewed differently across regions, and it's a lot of like cultural difference between different regions, different countries. Developed countries seem to care a lot about the climate. This is seen in the regulations they accept. Developing countries maybe care a bit more about other aspects of life. And this is quite clear when you look at the political decisions made in countries, or like what they incentivize in terms of monetary incentives. But the first country we're launching in is France, and it's because of a very big reason, which is sustainability awareness and attitudes towards this topic. France similar to the UK, it has quite a lot of people who care about sustainability, about deforestation. And so we're really trying to double down on the environmental messaging to really prove that you can plant trees with us and that it's, it's all real. You can actually do something about the climate from your own so far, office or wherever you are. So this was like the biggest reason why we're launching in France. The second one is also because the founders have French roots. So it was kind of a natural decision for them to also like expand to the kind of home country. But also what we had to like adjust in the product, I think the language adaptation was a very big piece of work for us because our research has shown that French users prefer an app that would be localized to the French language. And this is different to like other countries, maybe like, I don't know, Scandinavia, Sweden, Finland, where maybe users would be a bit like more okay with an English speaking app, right?
Right.
Yeah. So language localization took a lot of effort, and making the app really scalable and making it maintain all the languages took a bit of time. And I think there was also an interesting like difference in the marketing strategy that we had to adopt. It's not related to the climate, but it's more about on the marketing side of things. So we know that in the UK, we are targeting influencers to partner with them to promote the app. But in France, interestingly, influencers are not seen as trustworthy. So they are seen as a bit of scammers. This is what my marketing manager told me. So she's done her research. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We had a few scandals in the past years.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not trying to pursue influencer partnerships. Instead, we're focusing on other sustainable brands to partner with, to associate our brand with sustainable brands out there in France that would be local to the country, and thus, making ourselves seem a bit more credible and do promotion with them. So that was like the marketing adaptation we had to do, which is pretty interesting, to be honest.
Yeah, very interesting. You might still look at B2B influencers, because this is rising in the past year or two, and they have no scandal yet. So who knows? Maybe they are still perceived as trustworthy. Great. Is there any specific big challenge you're facing right now, and you want to point out while scaling TreeApp globally, or have we touched every challenges you're meeting right now?
I think we'll see more challenges, honestly, as we go, because right now we're just trying to really get this first step done, by pushing TreeApp, being really international, going to a different country. And for 5 years, this hasn't been the case. We've just stayed in the UK and Ireland, and that was it. So we tried to build the app, yeah, exactly. We tried to build the app, build the B2B platform, and all of this was quite focused on the UK market. But now we're expanding, and we're looking to expand into more countries moving forward. I'm not sure if there is like unlimited potential here, right? Because at the end, as you said, cultural differences and regional differences can play a big role. And maybe in some countries we will not find any success. But in some countries where we know that people care about sustainability, they care about deforestation, of course, we'll find at least some audience that will use the app, use the B2B services. And
most likely, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see as we go. It seems like quite a big experiment for us, trying to understand what works for international audiences in different countries. And it's a really exciting time.
We are getting close to the end of this interview. I have a couple more questions to wrap this up. Things are changing fast, and today truth might not last, right? So what's one thing you believe is true today in climate tech, but might not be true tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that today sometimes climate-friendly solutions or climate tech is seen a bit like as a premium service. And this is true for, I don't know, maybe even tree planting, right? Because not all companies have money and desire to invest in something like this. They don't see a real like practical advantage to doing that, and that's completely understandable. So not seeing a direct value in climate tech is, I guess, a common issue. And then you opt for something else. You opt for something that brings you practical things in your life, practical value that you can actually use, not just some trees planted, somewhere. And then I guess this is not very practical. It doesn't really sound practical for businesses, right? Of course, it's a nice thing for the brand awareness, as I said, for the underlying motivation of people to do something good for the environment. But I think that with all the innovation in this space right now and all the demand as well, I hope that we can make sustainability like mainstream and make it really affordable as well. And for example, this is happening with things like EV batteries, because I know that since they were invented like, dozens of years ago, they cost so much at the beginning, but now the price for an EV battery has declined so much that people can actually afford an EV vehicle. So I was reading a book recently about the climate. It's written by Hannah Ritchie. It's called It's Not the End of the World. And it's a lot of like surprising facts about the climate and what people believe is not true and all of this. And also I found that, for example, installing a solar panel right now has become quite cheap. So when countries are looking for building a new infrastructure for energy, especially like developing countries, they can just skip the fossil fuels. They can just not choose fossil fuel
And jump
based
right
infrastructure
away.
and jump right into the renewable solutions. So that means that in this sustainable solution, there's also another value of being cheap, of being affordable for people. And they actually make these choices based on other things, other reasons, such as affordability, rather than just making it for the climate, for the environment. So in this case, cheaper equals sustainable, and it's great because there is like twofold value here. And I really hope that the same can happen with digital climate tech solutions as well. That digital products can generate value and be better for the users, for the clients, not only for the planet, but also have value for other parties involved. And I think here at TreeApp, we are actually trying to do this, right? So we're trying to build a community on the app where people see value in looking at, other people's tree planting efforts and competing with them, for example. Or they see value in building a streak of using the app over and over like 1,000 days of having a streak. This is awesome. So there's like additional value here, and we're trying to build upon this and really advance. On the B2B side as well, we're trying to give clients more value. We're trying to help them with their brand awareness. We're trying to give them all the assets from the planting side. We're trying to ensure transparency and compliance. So all of this is like additional value on top of sustainability that can really bring us closer to a really sustainable world.
That's great. One last question before we go. If you could change one thing in the way we approach building climate tech SaaS products, what would it be?
Yeah, I think I'll probably just continue on the same topic because it has been on my mind for a while now, right? So I need to speak about this. So I think we definitely need more solutions that would feel like a win-win for all parties, to like everyone involved. That everyone would benefit, users, planet, businesses, like everyone would benefit from them. And I think this is really the only way to gather a really big user or client base in this space. Environmental benefits are great, but then what other benefits do you have? Why should people use your product aside from the planet benefits? We need to just make sure to highlight the personal value or business value in these kind of solutions. And I feel like there's great potential in these kind of solutions. For example, apps like Too Good To Go, quite a popular app that it really feels like a win-win for all parties involved. You save money, you also help the planet, and you help the businesses that sell food. So it's a win-win-win situation for everyone. And we've received also feedback about TreeApp that, it's too good to be true. People don't actually believe that there is something like this that allows us to plant trees for free.
That's a great feedback, actually.
Yeah, exactly. We loved receiving this feedback. I think that we are also a win-win solution, but there is, of course, there's, of course, a lot to explore, a lot of opportunities to pursue, and so much more value that we can create that we should not stop improving.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Excuse My SaaS. Huge thanks to you, Valeria, for sharing your insights on balancing purpose and business, scaling internationally, navigating the complexity of running a dual model climate tech company. I love this episode, really. If you enjoyed it too, subscribe to our channel to support us. Share this episode with someone who might be in a similar challenge. You can find Valeria and me on LinkedIn. And if you want more no BS conversations about SaaS, product, and business impact, stay tuned for the next episode of Excuse My SaaS. Until next time, keep discovering, keep building, and keep creating value. See you soon. Thank you, Valeria.
Thank you so much.